I want to thank you for the opportunity for members like me to share our idea. I think this is a very valuable thing for the entire House. And I know you've got a difficult job ahead. I don't envy you one bit. But I'm excited about the opportunity to share an idea about a very important part of the budget. It's something that I feel very strongly about. I represent a district in southwest Alabama that has a high percentage of people who are poor. And this is not something that's new for me to be dealing with. It's something I've dealt with since when I was in college. Here's the problem with our policies and therefore the way we budget for these programs. We treat poverty in America like it's an incurable disease, like it's a chronic incurable disease. And so we have these programs that deal with the effects of the disease. But we don't really try to lift people out of poverty, which is what we should be doing. And I've been a part of efforts that have successfully lifted people out of poverty. And we don't really do that. Our programs are really not designed to do that at the federal level, which I think is a crying shame. We spent $20 trillion since the war on poverty began and barely affected the number of people, percentage of people in America that are on poverty. Well, shouldn't our policy at the federal level be, let's lift people out of poverty? So I want to talk to you briefly today about some ideas I have about that I do think greatly affect the budget. And I want to make it very clear. It is not my intention to throw people who need help off of the programs that provide them with help. Indeed, I want to find ways, positive ways, to help people that need help, to get the help that they need, but also to receive the help that they need to get out of poverty altogether. So let me talk about that. For several years, I was the Chancellor of Post-Secondary Education for the state of Alabama. In that role, I was also the Chair of the State Workforce Planning Council. Now, for most of us that went to a four-year college, we don't understand two-year colleges. We don't understand people that need those sorts of programs. Well, I spent a lot of time with those people, and I can tell you they don't want to be on welfare. They don't want food stamps, they want Medicaid, they want a way to get out. And they'll come to a program like a two-year college or a high school GED program because they want to make their life better, they want to make their family's life better. But our welfare policies in America actually provide perverse disincentives for them in that regard. So what I think we need to do is to think completely anew about these programs. And I'm talking about welfare, food stamps, Medicaid, governmental housing assistance, and it all adds up to be about 92 different programs, and this year we're going to spend about $800 billion on them. Now these are mandatory spending. We don't appropriate it. It just goes out automatically, which frankly doesn't sound like a very responsible way for us as congressmen to deal with the budget and appropriations process for the American people. So what would I do differently? Well, first, I would collapse these programs into one program. It is a nightmare for the states, and frankly, it's a nightmare for the beneficiaries to deal with 92 different programs. Now, they have all these sometimes conflicting requirements and regulations, etc. Secondly, we should build into those incentives for people to get work, if they're on work, to continue to receive the stuff they need to receive while they're getting themselves out of poverty. Sometimes we let people who are working get to a certain point, then if they go over that point in their income, they lose some of their benefits. That makes no sense. We should be giving them an incentive to stay in the world of work and try to make their lives better. But we also need to make sure we have something on the other side. And that is a very, very firm commitment that they will go and find themselves a job. Now, for many of these people, that's not realistic because they don't have the education or training to go get the jobs that are being created in our workforce. We have a tremendous skills gap in America. I hear it all the time, and the data is overwhelming. I'm on the Education and Workforce Committee. I see this all the time. We have told a whole generation of young people that in order to get ahead in life, you've got to get a four-year college degree, when in truth, only about 30% of the jobs we're creating in America need that. The other 70% of Americans need a high school diploma and one of our high-demand technical skills that are provided primarily through our two-year colleges around the United States of America. The problem is that we are telling people to go to college and get a four-year degree when most of them really don't want to do that. And we've not been giving them the means to get easily into these two-year college programs so they get the high-demand skills for tomorrow. I'll give you one example in my district. We have a number of shipyards. We can't get enough welders. Yet we don't have the programs in place to take people who are in poverty or on these programs and get them the skills so they can go out there and get the jobs that are out there. So I would like to suggest, I see my time's running out, I'd like to suggest to the committee this. Let's think completely anew about these programs. Instead of treating poverty as a chronic, incurable disease, let's make it our goal that we will cut the poverty rate in America in half. Now, there are three things that come from that. One, we benefit every one of those people and their families because they get out of poverty. Second, it saves the American taxpayer an enormous amount of money, $800 billion on these programs. Thirdly, by doing that, you supercharge the American economy. This workforce participation rate that has been such an issue over the last several years, well, part of the problem there is that we've not addressed that in the way that I just mentioned. So if you do those three things, we benefit poor people, we save the taxpayers money, and we supercharge the American economy. Not often in Congress do we have the opportunity to do three things like that in one fell swoop. Now, I will tell you this is hard stuff. One of the programs I had was to provide workforce training to people in our state penitentiary system. But here's a statistic that's going to blow your mind. If you finished one of our workforce training programs in the Alabama penitentiary system that I ran through the two-year college system, if you completed it, we got you a job 100% of the time. And of those prisoners, only 2.5% of them came back into the prison system. That's a 2.5% recidivism rate. Any penitentiary system in America would kill to have a 2.5% recidivism rate. What's the magic? We got them the ability to get a job. And if we'll do that for everybody in America, we can work some very important magic for the American people. And I hope that we will take the opportunity the next year or so to consider that. That's the end of my testimony. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank the gentleman from Alabama for his testimony and his outlook on things.